is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he been approved, he will receive the crown of life.
All right, we're on.
Welcome, everybody. It's December 19th, 2024, 6 days away from Christ's Mass. Hope you're all doing well.
Yes, welcome. There is a lot to talk about today.
There is so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. Do you?
Yeah, I don't either. There's a few questions from across the platforms, and then there's stuff we also just want to talk about. So what do you want to do first, Father?
Why don't we start off with one question from a platform?
Okay, we'll take the one that's right in the YouTube chat from Todd. And he's asking, will Shawn provide details as to what one can expect to get from the leadership course? Maybe his hope for what involvement should look like and what the goals are specifically.
Well, in my experience from having done only the first one, really it's kind of an open forum where there's like one video a week for 52 weeks. And you watch the video and then you respond to like a one-page test quiz. and you send it in, and
10
then
questions.
What's that?
10 questions.
10 questions only. Like there's multiple choice. There's
it's fast.
It's fast.
There's
It's fill in the
essay
blank, and then
questions.
there's a few essay.
Yeah, and that could be as short or as long as you want.
Yeah. And what it does is we've kind of crafted it this way so that you can think through concepts that you may not have thought about and give concise answers of what you think. And we get together on a weekly, is it weekly, Del? Monthly till the very end Zoom calls where everybody who's enrolled gets together on the Zoom, and we talk about the video, we talk about the tests, quiz, we talk about alternative views. It isn't to indoctrinate you on anything. It's to give you perspective on Scripture so that in the Zoom call you can come in and say, hey, I don't agree with this, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. There's not much else to say. The people in the first one, it was so wide ranging. Some of them kind of dropped off at the start, didn't want to do it. Some of them did the whole thing, absolutely loved it, but never showed their face on Zoom. And some people are like Sarah and Grady, who they want to redo it again and want to be making content with us. And actually, to me, that's the goal. Someone who's interested in doing a course like this is serious, and it's not to train them necessarily on specific content, even though that's how it's facilitated, but it's more about just pulling those serious people out of the crowd and having a conversation with one another.
And then you're kind of equipped in our mind to then create content yourself and put it up.
Right. And we're at that stage with the first group where they are working on courses themselves. They'll sell them, they get the money from it, collect donations, whatever. I don't know how it's not set up, but hopefully it becomes a valuable thing for whoever puts in the work. They get something back out of it. So,
and just to let you know, we had, I don't know how many were first enrolled, maybe 12 or 10. And then some people, like Delaney said, dropped off. One woman dropped off over the name cult. And she was really offended by it. She was really a believer and really sold out to trying to understand things. But she said that was just so offensive. And it opened us up to having to discuss, what our purpose and intentions are and what they're not. And just let me open this up, because there's something happening right now with us in the ministry that we have to talk about. We might as well talk about it here. You may not know this, but over the past 20 years, we've had a number of expressions online through what people call social media. We had a Heart of the Matter channel on Facebook. And just to let you know that I'm not a social media person because it takes too much time. That is not what I'm here to do and engage in social media. I'm here to create content and to help educate people. And then my own circle of influence, I'm here to help people in need. That means to help bring counseling or whatever it is, to sit with them, meet with them here in Salt Lake. And then, of course, my family and stuff, just like everybody else. But social media has been a fail for us because a lot of people who are inclined to be involved in that with Instagram and Facebook and all the others, they have more time. They want to spend more time talking to other people than they want to put to what we are offering. And that's really significant. What we are offering is content, not socialization. If you want socialization, you can go to the bar, you can join a church, you can join a sports team, you can stay online and go to Facebook and get all the socialization you want. Our specific purpose is to teach and educate and help people ask questions pertinent to the gospel of Jesus Christ, the great news, and everything else. So the reason I say that is because a few months ago, I guess it was, somebody brought up a social media platform called Discord, and Discord, we said, I think Jeff said he could do it. Claire offered to do it. And Jeff came in and he did it all because he's done it before. The problem is, like I said, in our experience with social media, we have a Heart of the Matter Facebook page. Did you know that? Did you know that I don't even run it? And did you know that it is completely geared to making fun of me and mocking me and challenging me? Because what happens is people in social media, sometimes that's what they want to do, and we don't, and it doesn't satisfy them, and so they get mad and they get on all the things that they want. So that said, Delaney found a very nouveau, inexpensive method where we can have our own in-house platform. I don't know what you call it, Delaney. Why don't you talk about it for a second?
I think that's a distinguisher, is it's not social media, and I guess it's called a community, but it's really just a space for us to announce things to you guys and you to pose questions to us. But it facilitates the sort of conversation we're looking for, which is pointed and serious. And then also it just logistically facilitates what we need. It will handle Grady being able to take questions and as he creates courses. It will be able to have courses on it itself. It just does a lot more for us, and it's directly on our website, so we can put it on our app. There's a lot to it, but I think the distinction is that it's not social. Like, social media is not at all what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate and with one another, learn with one another. So something more like a forum, which I would call this, it's more like a forum.
Oh, good.
Is more appropriate for the long view. So we can talk more about that, but Kim is on the phone. I don't want to keep her hanging.
Let's talk to Kim.
Okay.
Live callers before conversation,
yes, always. Here she comes.
Kimberly.
Hello.
How you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you
I'm
well.
great. Okay, awesome. If it ever goes out, I'm driving, I can totally pull over. So, just wanted to chat with you on my commute.
Oh, good.
Okay. All right. We'll just start off with a couple observations. Not necessarily a question, but it's been pretty... Sorry, my car beeps. It's been pretty cool to realize that God has a name, whether we pronounce it Yahweh or Yahweh or Jehovah, because I used to be extremely offended by when people would say, oh my God. But realizing that God is not a name, it's an entity, and that there are, little g gods many, like just saying the word God.
Yeah.
I don't personally choose to in that way, but it's like less offensive to me now.
Good.
Because I'm like, that's not taking the Lord's name in vain. It's not his name.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
So I'm curious though, what in that time, or maybe even today, what you think taking the Lord's name in vain meant or might still mean.
I think it meant to speak for him. I think it meant to say, I think it meant to say, God says, God wants, God directs, God said to me to tell you. That's what I think the better definition is, rather than just saying his personal pronoun name. But even I'm sensitive to that too, having grown up LDS, that they've made Heavenly Father the only reverent way, or Father in heaven, and God is so, and I'm glad you came to that realization.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just to not be as judgy with that, I guess.
Yeah.
Even if I don't still choose to say it in that way,
Yeah.
Just out of habit more so. I am going to pull over because I feel like my car is very loud. So hang on a second.
I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I want to make sure that it's not annoying for you too. Okay, so Alrighty. I want to just talk about one of the fruits of your ministry. It was really cool to hear on Monday with the I Don't Get the Bible, the fruits in Delaney's life, or to get a little peek into that and to just see your joy, Shawn, in being able to hear your own flesh and blood kind of have some lights turn on and see some of those blessings of this way of thinking. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to you for one of the fruits in my life being more peace in my marriage.
Awesome.
Until we listened to your very first Heart of the Matter, what was the one in May? Full Circle.
Oh.
There was a distinct shift after we listened to that. And just considering the possibility that there might be subjective faith rather than us fighting against, him still sort of holding to the cultural Mormonism stuff and me really trying to grasp the next objective truth of evangelical Christianity and kind of butting heads. It became like, oh, well, maybe none of it is objectively true and we're just navigating and walking by faith. And like, it's just cool because we can actually have conversations about God now without it, ending in tears or contention. And there's still some sticky subjects, but it gives us this opportunity to be like, well, if it's all subjective, then, you might be wrong, I might be wrong. And, we're
That's
just
wonderful.
here and walking by faith and love, And so I just want to thank you for that in my life.
Thank you for telling us. There's so much that we don't ever hear. And so what you're sharing with us really warms our heart because especially with your husband and seeing that I'm not hating LDS people at all. In fact, I respect them greatly.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that really helps his guard be down,
Good.
In those kind of things. And we've been able to have, so one of the conversations we had recently, I wanted to share with you, and it was an observation that he made, where we were discussing with the kids, we were reading from the Bible about how, when Yeshua came, everyone was expecting him to come in a different way, in a material manifestation of being a savior, of being a Messiah. They were waiting for this military leader to, free them from Rome and all of this. And he just kind of stopped and he said, what Yeshua came, he said Jesus, but what Jesus came to do and the way his messiahship was manifested was in a spiritual way. Now, there were miracles and signs and all of that to fulfill prophecy, but what he came to do was the spiritual salvation, not the material salvation. And he said, I wonder if his second coming was the same way. Where right now, people are looking for the material manifestation of the new heaven, the new earth, everything being before our eyes, something we can see in our context and what we want him to be, just like in his day, what they wanted him to be then. But if it's all spiritual, then we're in the same predicament. And Christianity is right where the Jews were at the time of his first coming.
It's a fantastic
and I just
observation.
Thought that was so insightful.
Oh, it was. Tell your husband, good job.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that is profound. So I wanted to share that.
That's
while we're not completely there yet, like we are so open and exploring the fulfillment. And for me, it's hard for me to settle on any one doctrine of way of thinking just because my whole life I was so rigid. And so I'm just like, I want to fully explore before I say, yes, this is what I believe. But that is, if it is so that he has already come, that could be an indication. Like we're just looking for the wrong things.
Yeah.
Just like they were.
Great way to approach it, Kimberly. Way to go.
So with your Deuteronomy teaching from a couple weeks ago, you were talking about, reading through all the law. And that was super eye-opening to realize how many very interesting and disturbing things were there sort of in the law. The drunkard son being able to be stoned in the street and that kind of stuff. And not to cherry pick the law and say, well, yeah, we keep the law, but if you don't keep the whole of it, like Paul said, you know, then you're not keeping any of it. And but I'm thinking about how the law mindset has served me, at least in my formative years, because the structure of the church I grew up in helped keep me from, you know, making major mistakes. Now, I know it's not like a guarantee, but with someone like me, the perfectionism, the rigidity, the routine, like it worked for me. The check boxes worked. I made mistakes, but I didn't get into any like serious addictions or sin lifestyle, right? So we're sitting here trying to consider, with this more open mindset with subjective faith, how we guide our children. Like, it feels like I needed the structure of law in order to be ready when I was spiritually mature for this more open, spirit-led life. I have a hard time imagining a 12 and a 9-year-old little boy being able to grasp everything that it's taken me like 40 years to grasp. And so we're kind of trying to figure out that balance of like, how much law how much structure, how much like, well, God said this in the 10 Commandments or in whatever it is. And so that's why we do what we do, without, I guess, going down the legalistic route. So any parenting advice along those lines that you have is welcome.
I have it, but I don't know if it will be appealing to you. Here's the thing that I've observed, and that is when you cut your children's teeth on law, it takes, most of them don't have the experience that you've had in being liberated from the law like the Jews did through Christ, but they've just become in bondage, and the Spirit is they never learn from a young age how to let the Spirit guide them and to learn how to walk in liberty and love and to freely go to God when they make a mistake. Now, I think you can probably raise better kids in a really good, faithful LDS home than you can approaching the faith this way with them. Better in the sense of they escape all the trappings of this world. But the reality is, you can see how hard it is for most people to leave it once they've learned to think that way. And so that's why I have an ongoing argument with a guy about this, but I suggest that we start with what is absolutely true and build from there. Now, one last thing, Kimberly, that said, it's so open and so subjective. I don't see, and people are going to hate me for this, but church doesn't matter. So I don't see why not raise your kids in the structure of Mormonism and have them come home and meet mom and dad who are opening them up to the truths of grace and use the structure to help them, but always counter the other stuff that is not the gospel, not true. Yeah.
So for us, I should have clarified. It's not about going like back to the structure of Mormonism per se, more so like loose structure of evangelical, like we're going to this non-denominational. And so we're kind of like, what does, kind of the way that Christianity teaches, but trying to leave out the hell aspect of it, but still have the fear of God in them, but not in a bad way, so it's less like we don't want to go back.
Yeah.
To Mormonism, but just have like a structure, a Christian structure, in that way,
yeah.
Yeah.
Your wisdom's going to lead the pack. What happens in the home is what matters. I'm telling you, Kimberly, if I've seen it once, I've seen it 1,000 times of good Christian kids with good Christian parents. The kids walk from the faith because it was taught to them in a way that was not congruent with what is true. And I have two grandsons. One's 13, one's 11, and they have been raised. They're the first generation I've been able to watch because their mother raises them in fulfillment. And they are so relaxed with life, and God is so good, and he loves me, and I just think that approach is just superior.
That would be so cool to have your daughter maybe join you for
Yeah.
the heart of the matter or something, or another call. Like, I would love to pick her brain about how that happens. And then, I'm considering doing the leadership course, and it just occurred to me maybe that will help me if I kind of apply it to my parenting. I don't know if that's the intention or if it could be used for that, but
yeah, I think there are principles there that would help you, and at least in the Zoom calls to be able to bring these things up and see what way might be best. I mean, I was not a great parent, but I tried to be, but my wife and I, we raised our kids in that more liberal, loving, we love you unconditionally, less law. We had a little bit of it, and I think it works.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard.
Okay, so this is it's very hard, but I just don't want to mess them up.
You're gonna.
So anyway, I'm gonna. Well, that's true. Okay, this is a follow-up from one of my questions last week. And where I asked about why the genealogy in Matthew 1 ends with Joseph instead of Mary, right?
Yeah.
And I was pondering on it more because you didn't want to answer it, and that's totally fine. But it led me down I don't know if it was from God or not, but I just thought of like the principle of adoption, because Joseph was Yeshua's adopted father, right? Or he was, So if that's the case, it may be this principle of we are adopted into the family of God, and through that, our divine lineage is complete, and it may not be direct like I used to think, like children of God, premortal, all of that, but through the spirit of adoption, which I know Paul also talks about, and I feel like I should look more into that, that maybe that wasn't the intention, but for me, that was kind of what I pulled from it, was that, the fulfillment of prophecy of Yeshua's divine lineage came through his adopted father, or his stepfather, and not through blood.
It's it makes sense, and it's a good thought, and I think it adds to the thing. I just don't have a really I just don't speak to it because I don't have a solid answer that will satisfy me in offering it. I'm certain I'm going to be wrong. So it's really hard, but I love that insight, and I think the Jews would see an adoptive father as the father. So, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Keep going with that. Maybe.
Hopefully we'll find out one day.
One day.
Okay, and then, just two more quick things. So I'm almost done with Revelation. I just
my goodness.
21. I am on track for the end of the year. I am so stoked. But in Revelation 20, verse 10, it says, I'll just go there. I'll paraphrase. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So, I'm following along with Revelations on Revelation, and in there it was stated that one interpretation of the beast and the false prophet was Nero and Vespasian. And so I guess I'm just wondering, because I get that it makes sense to me that the lake of fire was created for the devil, but if Vespasian and Nero are in there, is that what that verse is saying? Because they were human. It wasn't made for them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say they take their part in it either, unless, I don't know. Would love your thoughts on that.
It's a good catch. I think that Grady can answer it better, and I think you may have discovered a mistake I made, because he has better evidence that it was a Kobar. It was a Jew. I think it was Kobar. Grady, if you want to chime in on this, let us know. I learned that it was that it was Nero from one source, actually from a few sources, but I think that might be lacking. And so But that doesn't get around your question, because the replacement of whoever they are still human.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But note that the Greek there says that they will be tormented day and night, age upon age, and it doesn't use the Greek term of eternally. So there could be something to that as well. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
I look forward to Grady continuing on with bringing out more clarification on that specific topic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's it for today. Merry Christmas.
I got to ask you.
Do a show next week, but if not, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. I think we're going to do one.
Happy New Year if we don't talk before then.
Same to you. I think we're going to remotely. But let me ask you, how terrible was Revelation on Revelation, since you're getting close?
I love it. It's not terrible at all.
It's so for you, you were
so
able to read it.
Much.
Oh, good.
I read it first. I read, just the word first to try to, with the Spirit, see what was coming. But so many times I was like, I have no idea what is going on here. And then all the different scripture references to kind of balance it out. It was invaluable.
Good.
In my study of Revelation. For
Good.
Sure.
I'm so glad. Yep. Thank you.
I'm a fan.
Happy holidays to all you guys in your growingly peaceful home. I'm so happy for you and your husband and your children. Yeah. Beautiful. I saw a picture of them in a Christmas
I'm
thing.
glad you got our card.
Beautiful family, and you're doing great. You can tell by so keep going, Kimberly. So grateful to know you.
Thank you so much. All right.
All right, my
right
sister.
Back at you.
Okay,
all right, we'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, Delaney, what do we have going on there? Are there more comments?
All right. Yeah. Let me turn myself up a little bit.
Just to let you know, as Grady dives heavier and heavier into eschatology, I am pulling more and more away. And when I do that, I start forgetting more than I ever knew.
Well, that's why Grady is our local eschatology expert.
That's right.
He is a wealth of knowledge. Todd commented just now, the book Revelations on Revelation was quite good. The series available on Cult is excellent. Todd is churning all the Cult content, all of it. He's done every course we have. He's unbelievable. I don't know how you've done it, Todd, but
yeah, we don't know how you've stayed awake. You and Kimberly.
Yeah, that was a really great call. Thank you, Kim. Okay, so there are several questions here. Did you have any more to say? We were talking before that call about, social media, all the stuff.
Delaney and I and anybody else who's involved, we just don't like any kind of division. And I just tend to think that the Discord, which I think is appropriately named, not because of what we're doing with it and what you guys do with it, but what can happen in social media relative to our ministry. We really want to try to keep it in-house. If whoever created, if it was Jeff, wants to keep Discord, I guess we can't stop him. But we would love him to come and join the in-house, and anybody on Discord to become part of what we have on the site. You guys don't know this, but we have some major growth, and our numbers are climbing. And then we're having some stories and not stories, but
articles
that are coming out. It looks like they're coming out in major publications about the ministry and what we're doing. So we are right at the beginning. And with that in mind, before I turn this back to Delaney on a comment, you guys are suffering with changes. Anybody who's been with us has suffered through changes. You guys are just suffering through the last tweaks to get it all right. And that means there's 10 or 15 or 20 of you on Discord. You might have to shift with us if you're willing for an in-house community so that we can keep up with each other on what we're offering. That's the purpose of it, along with some conversation between like-minded believers. Delaney, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, it's hard. The hardest thing for me that over the course of these years in the ministry is acting with like a knowledge of where we want to go and what we know is coming in the next few years, but kind of everybody else not being fully aware of that and getting tripped up on changes and stuff. But they're really intentional, and with all these things coming out that you just talked about, it's really important that the content is accessible and that the way we're discussing the content is in this tone that we're intending, which is serious, just learning in the spirit with one another. And I think this is just the move that handles all of it. But it's just really hard. These people are just gaining traction on Discord, and it's hard. I feel really badly because it is hard to like trip people up in a momentum that they have. But please come over to that. Everybody is fully welcome, and we hope you put the effort. It is actually available on the app. I know our app doesn't work that well. We have limited resources, but exit out of it and bring it back, and it should work. And the community's in there, and you can chat.
I got to comment on something Delaney just said, because it's a line that we use a lot, but there's clarifications to it, unfortunately. She said everybody's fully welcome. And, couched in that line, which we mean with all of our heart, what we mean is everyone who is of a sincere heart to learn, challenge, test, but learn and grow in knowledge, rather than just forever be wandering around and never coming to a knowledge of the truth. We really welcome everybody, but we are looking for seekers to join us who have serious questions and are willing to take the time to hear and seek out the answers. So when we say, and the reason I'm bringing this up is when we did an interview with somebody for an article the other day, they were using the word spiritual. And we had to clarify that we are not spiritual in the open sense of all spirituality is fine with us, because there are dark spiritual forces that we absolutely disagree with, and we really don't want anything to do with them. So to just say that we're a spiritual movement is really incorrect. We are a Bible-based, Christ-affirming, God-seeking people that are trying to educate instead of impose religion. So I just wanted to make those things clear.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like, I think in the context of Christianity, you would say we're a spiritual movement.
Right.
Like we emphasize the spirit.
Right.
But then you talk, that has such different connotations than in the world. When you call yourself spiritual, it's like you're summoning witches to help. Like, spirit could be literally anything in the world. So it's hard to, as we grow, we're like moving out into the world more rather than just speaking to maybe ex-Mormons or ex-Christians. And we have to really distinguish that fact. And it's not exclusive. We will love and talk to anybody, but in terms of the content being made, you have to draw a line for there to be a shape to the thing. It's not about salvation or anything. It's like how a school says we provide a architecture program. Like, they teach architecture. They don't teach science and philosophy. So
right. And just to let you know, something and I forgot what I was going to say. Too much paint thinner in my head. I've been working all morning on a piece of art.
Okay, so back to the start, a quick tip. Todd says he's worried. He says he doesn't have any inclination to create content. When he was talking about the leadership program, that's totally fine. You can do the leadership. You can do whatever you want without the obligation to do anything else with us, in every sense of that phrase. So The Grill Master 2000 is asking, if a missionary knocked on your door, Shawn, what 2 questions would you ask to challenge them?
To challenge them.
Yeah.
If that was my ambition to challenge, I don't do that anymore, but if that was my ambition, I would say, I want you to explain to me why Satan tempted Adam and Eve in the garden. The reason is the LDS have a belief that the fall was a fall upward and the fall was good, and that it was a way for man to continue to grow in opposition and in pain and to learn to choose amidst those things. If Satan knew that getting Eve to eat the fruit would bring about what God wanted, why did Satan tempt her? You would think Satan would spend every bit of his energy to keep her away from eating of that tree. So that would be the first thing I would ask. The second thing would be, what are the works that the Bible teaches are requisite for life with God after this life?
Wow.
Those are the 2 things I would ask.
Those are good.
Because the works through the Bible are clear that they are faith and love. And then I would ask them, how do you define that work of love? And if they started including a bunch of laws and things, it would open up to a discussion about how that is not what the scripture says. Good question, Grill Master.
I like those suggestions, Dad. Todd said that Kim's comments about peace in marriage is no joke. This perspective improves, if not saves, marriages for interfaith couples, which, I mean, that should be a course, just how to navigate marriage and parenting. It really sparked my
Yeah, we should create it with
ideas.
Mallory
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, and Todd, Kim, like, please, I
Yeah.
know you guys don't want to create content, but this is such valuable, I don't like the word testimony, but it's like a testimony to people of what your beliefs are doing in your life.
Yeah, I mean, in Radicalize, the monthly Heart of the Matters coming up in 2025, we might have a full show just on parenting and marriage in a mixed faith, interfaith family.
that would be
And
good.
maybe even Kimberly and Todd would be willing, even some of my daughters might be willing, because that is one of the values of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's being proven out in the lives of people who have just even recently commented and called in.
Yeah,
So,
100%. And it's done a lot in your daughter's lives, even
Yeah.
at every scale. Like Mallory
Yeah.
got it sort of into already having children. Cassidy got it sort of at the start of marriage, and I'm getting it in choosing a person.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've had it at the different levels, and then Todd and Kim way into marriage.
We can talk about that. I would look forward to that in the future. By the way, that crashing sound is these marble cutters that are all around us decide on the day we're going to do the show to dump all their marble into a steel industrial trash bin, and it makes that horrific noise. So sorry.
And they play their music really loud while they do it.
Yeah.
Okay. J7T8. In your estimation, is cultural Christianity on the rise in opposition to sterile atheism?
Well, I see every form of Christianity as cultural. I see every form of religion as cultural. And I think that in this age where there are a lot of people who are finding their lives hollow and miserable, I think it may be on the rise. And, that becomes very experiential, going to the club, doing the thing, having the Jesus experience and all that. And I guess it serves a purpose, and everybody has to start somewhere. So I don't speak against it, but, I think the ebb and flow of religion has always been present and connected to what's happening in society.
Yeah.
When we go to war and when there's famine and things like that, you find churches swelling. And when it's times that are good and licentious, the church is empty. So I don't know. But I just wish that people would really try to make it real instead of just something that serves them.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that with my own friends, at least. Like, there's a swing. It's sort of like you're saying, it's cultural. Like, it's the same as like men. There's a subset of men who are reverting into like hardcore alpha male sort of stuff because of women's liberation.
Calvinism.
What was that?
Calvinism.
Yeah, well, it's so tied to like I have a lot of friends who they're the last people I would have expected this to happen to, but they're going to like suit and tie, really old school churches now because they're so tired of what's going on in the world. And like that's the place that they think truth is closest to existing.
Right.
Rather than thinking, okay, what's truth actually?
Right.
Like, yeah, so there's a lot of issues with it, but I do think there's a cultural swing, like the person's asking.
I agree with you, Del, and I know you've seen that with some of your friends, and you're going to see it more and more, and then you'll see the other side of the spectrum where your friends walk.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it really is one or the other.
Yeah. I don't want to beat anybody to death with this stick, but I don't think Yeshua was mistaken when he said plainly, straight, and that's S-T-R-A-I-T, is the gate, and narrow is the way, and few be there that find it. And broad is the way that leads to destruction, which is the wearing away of your aberrant soul. And in my experience, and I'm not saying that believers who are true are better, but they are different than believers who are just in it for the social structure, keeping their family in line and things like that. And that straight gate, which is like the entrance to the city walls, which were really convoluted, and you had to twist yourself to get in and through the tunnel to get into the city. That is what it meant by straight. And to do that, it is a rare thing. And let me just add to this so it takes off the edge of being dogmatic or something. I believe that those who are true and who do pursue the straight gate and the narrow way, that they will be servants in the kingdom above. I believe they will be the ones who go and share. They'll be light bearers into the dark and into the communities that have not yet received God through Christ. And I don't think it's going to be anything like they're better. I think they will do exactly what they have wanted to do, and that is serve God. And I think there might even be more comfortable, more pleasurable existences outside of the call of somebody who is a son or daughter of God. But I do believe that those who are his sons and daughters, they will love and rejoice in whatever he has them do. Delaney just went to sleep.
I did not. I have to be doing
She's doing many things
at
back
once.
there. Looking at her phone, answering emails.
I am.
Answering calls.
I am.
Juggling. And doing performance art.
Yes, I am. Can I ask you? Oh, good timing. Get me out of that situation. Grady is calling.
Oh.
Would you like to take
Let's
his
hear from our
call?
brother Grady. We need your help on some of those questions, Grady.
All right. Here he comes.
All right, brother Grady, thanks for calling in, man.
Hey, no problem, brother. Listen, you don't have much time, but I did want to chime in. I think you mentioned, I'm working on setting up some eschatology courses that are going to be different levels off of the Cult.Love website. But listen, one thing I wanted to mention about Nero and whether he was the beast or not.
Mm-hmm.
No, he wasn't the beast. The reason I could say he wasn't the beast is because that's associated with the Antichrist or the man of sin. And Nero never once went to Jerusalem. never even went to Judea. He never stood up in the holy place. He never did any of those things. What we do have is the leaders of Israel doing those things. And the governor of the temple in 66 AD standing up and refusing to offer sacrifices to Yahweh on behalf of any Gentiles or the Roman Empire. And that is specifically exactly what Paul says the man of sin was going to do. He was going to stand in that holy place, and he was going to attempt to change customs and times and laws. And when he did that, a lot of the Jews said, you can't do that. You're changing the law. You're changing what we're supposed to do. Gentiles are always supposed to be able to offer at the temple. And he says, well, I've done what I've done. That in Josephus' own words, he says, that right there, that action was what started that Jewish war. And as far as how Satan is bound for 1,000 years or during the millennium, I believe the millennium started in 70 AD, not ended. And I believe it actually ended in about 135 with the utter and total destruction of Simon Bar Kokhba, who had rejoined and re-brought up Judaism. They were trying to reestablish the temple and retake Judea and set up that system again. And it was utterly destroyed to the point that the Roman armies went through and they destroyed all the cities and towns within the whole Judea and Galilee, to the point that to this date they have problems identifying where certain cities were. That's how utterly they destroyed it. And the Simon Bar Kokhba, there's a whole bunch I can get into that, but no, I believe that Simon Bar Kokhba himself was, I don't want to say he was that beat. Maybe, are you still on?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was, what is the resistance? It was those who, what is the devil? What is HaSatan? It's that which is the adversary, the resistor. And here you have Christ has done all that he's did, and now what are they doing? Coming back, trying to reestablish that whole system. So I would say it was that rebellion and that loosing. When Simon Bar Kokhba came, it's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be in that cult course that's going to come up, so I hope you all enjoy the eschatology. It's a little hard to get into all the details right now, but I just wanted to call and say that.
Hey, brother, don't leave yet. I just want to say to the audience, we are witnessing something right here as a group that I think you probably tuned in on without my explanation, but Kim called and she talked, and then Todd called and talked about reading Revelation and then watching the Revelation series that I did, and then Kim was able to catch something in my book that she said, "Do you think that was Nero?" Now, so what I'm trying to say is that these things are steps in the right direction that we're all doing, and I did my best to do what I did, but then I met Grady, and I learned so much more about eschatology that I could rewrite that thing. But it's a good primer to get you going in it. And now we're so blessed to have him come in. And now he's going to articulate the finer points to make our stance on fulfillment and right eschatology even stronger. And I cannot wait till he has some things he's working out in materially to get the stuff done, but as soon as it's there, we'll have it up on the cult courses, and you will understand all the little quibbles that people have, the two dead in the street and all of these time things, because of his years of lonely study. And I'm so grateful that he and I and Delaney and you guys at home, we're all part of this team. Delaney too, and we're growing in spirit and truth, and we're doing it from different parts in the world, and it's just a beautiful thing. So thank you, Grady, for all your sacrifice and for sharing with us.
Thank you, Grady.
Absolutely, anytime. And just so that you know, one of the course is going to be on exactly that. It's showing and eliminating some of the problematic beliefs that are typical in full preterism, so that it's more unified, it's more understandable, and more easily defined as being true.
Praise God. Thank you, Grady. Wait a minute, Grady, before you go. Todd has a question.
Yeah.
How then does Grady regard the Gematria 666 if Nero is not the Antichrist, I wonder?
I don't think it was gematria. We have absolutely no other biblical place in the Bible where gematria is used at all. It's simply an idea that gematria is used there. I believe 666 is not actually referencing gematria or even Nero. I believe it's specifically referencing the Jewish leadership and even maybe a specific leader at that time, but it was the Jewish leadership of the temple at the time. And if you look at 666, the only other place that it's mentioned in the Bible, well, there's another one, but it has to do with genealogies. But the only other place it's mentioned was in the Old Testament, and it's specifically referring to Solomon. And Solomon broke the law that was demanded because he was receiving money that was just absolutely unbelievable amount of gold in the form of 666 talents of gold, or what was being paid to him from other nations and their ushery, right? Mm-hmm. And that was, if you read the next part in the next chapter, is when he starts multiplying wives, and it led to destruction. If you look at what led to the biggest issue with Israel and that man I told you about, I think his name was Eleazar ben Ananus, I believe. His father was Ananus ben Ananus. You know, I can't change the names. That's what they were, but Ananus ben Ananus. But anyways, they had come and they had basically stolen money from the temple. And because they had done that, one thing led to another. And because of stealing money is what caused them to say, we're no longer offering sacrifices. And so you look at Solomon and you see that is what was there. He got perverted. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can really argue that Solomon didn't get perverted. And he set up all these other temples for his wives. And part of the only other place we find 666 is him. Now, I want you to look at that reference that's in there, and it says, let he who has wisdom understand. And it's clearly understood that wisdom, Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived.
Wow.
And so you just had them say wisdom and relate that back to 666. And any Hebrew reading that is going to relate 666 only back to Solomon, not Nero.
We're seeing,
especially given, I mean, it really doesn't even fit. 666 really doesn't even fit because you have to mess with the gematria some. And, you know, hey, it's a theory. I like the theory. It just doesn't fit in my point of view.
Yeah. And thank you for those clarifications because they're really, really intriguing. I'm sure Todd is clapping right now. And by the way, you just ruined my Revelation collection of art because I've got Nero up there with the gematria supposedly describing him. And now I got to put Barkova. Thank you, Grady.
No, but listen, there's the thing about it, though, Shawn. That's the thing. Was Nero a beast? Absolutely he was. Even the Romans called him a beast.
Yeah.
Was he typified by that? Yeah, but was he the one that was specifically being referenced there? I don't believe so. But, you know, who knows? Like I said, a lot of this is theory. It's just which theory fits the end result that we're living in the best. So, you know, there's most people believe it was Nero.
I know.
So I could be completely wrong.
I don't think you are. I think you're dead on, and that's why I've changed my mind. So thank you, my brother. Thanks for taking the time to call in. Did you have to leave your house?
Yeah, I'm standing out by the road.
Well, avoid those trucks. We love you and look forward to more work from you, brother.
All right. Hey, I love y'all, and I'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Todd just asked, can't do it all at once. Todd just asked, so 666 equals Nero is just merely a coincidence? Do you want to answer that?
I think that the gematria Todd is referring to, it can also describe a number of other people as well their
see.
name fits as well. And I've seen that, so I think it's not an exact science. I think it's a broad thing, and you can make his name fit into that, but I'm not sure it's accurate.
Well, is it possible that all these things are true? Or that you're not totally wrong about Nero?
Yeah, it could be. It could be like Grady said, they considered him a beast, that there was one application of the beast there in Nero, but he doesn't fit the other descriptions like Grady pointed out. He'd never been to Jerusalem. That was one of the things that the Antichrist would do. And so if he doesn't fit it all, even if the gematria looks like it makes sense, you can't use it.
Interesting. Okay. More questions?
Sure.
There's a few from the community from this week, but let me get the ones that are in the chat.
While you're looking at that, I just want to recommend, I think you can get it for free, and if you can't, we'll give it to you. It's downloadable. It's a book called Light and Dark. And I compiled it, wrote it a while ago, and it will explore some themes about light and dark from the scriptural perspective and also in this world. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because someone just asked the question about, do you think there's a rise in Christian culture? And I do. And as Delaney pointed out, she sees it too. Why? Because I think dark forces are really powerful. And while I think Satan has been done away with, I think that these dark forces continue to grow because I think members of the human race join them at death. And I know that's a strange thing to say. And I just think that there is more yearning to get out of the dark that many people are in. So consider Light and Dark. It might open your eyes to some of the things that are out there in that realm.
It does cost, but we can give it to you if you need. It's $5, I think. And
it's $5 if you want it, and if you're poor, you just write Delaney and say, I'm poor.
And if you're a supporter, you get it free.
Hey, look at that. Check out the support page.
Supporter program. Todd saying, does Shawn currently think Grady's comments are a stretch?
No, I think they're dead on.
Okay. Okay. From the chat, your quick take on premortal versus Christian view on conception.
Oh, wow. Boy, we're getting in a sticky wicket with that one. What they're talking about, premortal, is really, bottom line, the premortal existence is purely Hellenistic thought, and it was taught and believed by the Greeks. It was taught by the Jewish scholar Spinoza in the 1600s, and Joseph Smith. It was taught by Swedenborg. And then there was also something about the transmigration of souls that the Jews had embraced from the Greek culture in their day about human beings existing before in a premortal existence. I do not believe in a premortal existence of human beings. I cite Christ's words where he says, I am from above, you are from below. And so I think that we were created human beings by God breathing the breath of life into Adam. He became a living soul, and through his unity with his wife, the human species was then propagated forth. I don't think that we existed, like Walt Whitman said, in trailing clouds of glory. I think that we exist when we are created. Now to the question. When was that? Is that at the conception of sperm and egg? I stand by this. When a fetus is viable outside the womb, it's alive. If it's not viable outside the womb, it's still in a process of development. I know that's liberal. I know people are going to go crazy when they hear that. But it doesn't make any logical sense to me for religious people to say abortion is murder, abortion is murder, abortion is murder, unless the mother's life is in danger or she's been raped. You don't. If it's murder, it's murder, whether she's raped or her life is in danger. And I don't see the justification for all that nonsense. So I don't like abortion. I don't think it is good. I think every human being who is pregnant, or most, would do well by having the child. But I don't think it's as clear cut as we want to believe.
Tricky. Okay. What is necessary to receive exanastasis?
What's necessary to receive exanastasis? Well, that's great. Whoever asked that asked
Todd.
What?
Todd.
Yeah, Todd is borrowing from a word Paul uses when he says that he was striving to receive a better resurrection. And so from that, we know that there is just a basic resurrection and that there's another kind of resurrection. And maybe there's many levels of resurrection. But exanastasis means you're going to get the very best resurrection. So Todd's question is, what do I think? And I think that the only person so far who has merited a perfect resurrection was Christ, because he lived perfectly, but I think by your faith in Christ from the heart and your desire to love as he did and your desire to get out of the way and let him reign, I think that lends to a great probability that your resurrection is going to be much better than many others.
What is your view on creation ex nihilo?
Oh boy.
Please explain what that means. I've heard you say it before.
Creatio ex nihilo means God created everything out of nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that he said it and it came to be. And without giving away too much on our first radicalized show, I don't agree with creatio ex nihilo, but I do believe that there is a response to it that is mind-blowing, possible, and it makes everything work. And I'm going to address that on January 7th, our first monthly Heart of the Matter Radicalized.
That's a really timely question.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, this is a Phoenix question, and she followed up with more. What's your view on creation ex nihilo, taking into account the word void used in Genesis 1:2? Is there a possibility that there was something before and Yahweh organized it?
Oh, man, you're killing it. Dang, you're stealing a lot. I am going to, because I'm really been working for a few months on this, and I'm going to hold off. If you can be patient, wait. But I will say this. I think that God, I can't even begin to articulate it rightly until then. I'll just say that I do not believe God created this heaven for this earth out of nothing.
Wild. Everyone tune in to January 7th.
Which is really going to make all the scholars of Christianity turn over in their beds or graves.
Did you mean to say that?
I did not mean it.
Okay. I'm going to go to some YouTube comments from over the past. I haven't read those in a while, and a few have built up.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Give me a second. I have to navigate this stuff. La, 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 la. Okay, we'll start with the Heart of the Matter channel. So people find old videos of yours. It's really interesting, and we get comments on them. And usually I don't know what the video has said other than what the title is, but so I'll just read the title of the video. The Problem with Systematic Theology is the title of this one, and Blogging Logos says, most of these people are not themselves systematic thinkers, but fans of systematic thinking, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, that's excellent.
On our last call-in hour, I don't know who this person is, says, regarding fulfillment, I think people want so badly to see Jesus walk the earth again as when he did before his crucifixion. I would love to see that too, but not sure I believe it will ever happen like that. I think when people saw Jesus after his resurrection, they were seeing him in the spirit. Not everyone saw him, only those who loved him. I believe that past proves the future. The Bible is a tool and history book to show us that sins have consequences and God will bring justice to the evil and wicked. What happened in biblical history is a clue to what has happened and will continue to happen throughout time. There's a lot of symbolism and metaphors in the Bible, so you can't take everything literally, especially when it comes to eschatology. Also, when you call on Jesus now, he does come quickly.
Oh, I love those observations. I think
Yeah.
they're dead on. I think they're insightful and meaningful. Whoever gave them, thank you. I want to go
Yeah.
back really quickly to systematic theology
Oh.
and point something out.
Okay.
And that is, I think systematic theology is a product of gifted, extremely gifted minds that are almost legal experts. And what they're able to do is make a systematic case that makes a lot of sense. And so because they can do that, they're able to systematize the faith. And that is why Calvin was so good, is that he could take the Bible, he was able to pull from a bunch of stuff and systematize how we're saved and what it means and all of those things. But if you look around in our world, I'm really grateful for thinkers like that, who are our lawyers and our surgeons and our pilots and people who think that way. But I think that their systematizing of doctrine totally ignores the fact that there is the Spirit. And the Spirit, like Christ says, goes where it wants. And you can't direct it. And that totally breaks apart the minds of gifted men who try to make everything a lockstep, concrete system by which you can place all your faith and trust upon. I don't believe that for a second. So I just wanted to say that.
We have a new, thank you for saying that.
You're
Sorry
welcome.
to not acknowledge it. We have a new person who I haven't seen before. He says, and if we can't find a way to trust any particular person is really inspired by God, shouldn't we all be atheists who use the natural world to figure out what is true instead of lying about specialness?
Oh, that's interesting. Look at, the natural world and the explanation of it is built off certain axioms that are not provable. And so therefore, science is nothing more than method. It is not provable. It's just provable upon the axioms that we have created and called true. So to suggest that atheists are really more wise, I would suggest that they are walking by faith too. It's just they place different emphasis on different premises they believe are true, but they don't have any proof for it. And it's the same with Christianity and believers and people of religion. We do not have truths. We do not have proofs. All we have are evidences. And based on the evidences, we interpret them as being true and not. So the chasm between atheists and religious people is, and between scientists and people of faith, is far closer than we could even believe. And that's what I've learned recently studying Baruch Spinoza, because he says he sought forever to prove something could be trusted, and he only wound up discovering that was a fail.
This person's responded and said, why aren't theists also subject to the same problematic axioms? We use science to build the very technology you're using to spread your gospel.
Because theists do not operate by theories that are proven to be correct in our material world. Theists operate off evidences that they interpret as true. That is called faith. So theists walk by faith, and if you forget that, then you're going to forever be confused about what motivates them. And while you might be able to mock faith, I think if a theist really looks at it, they could turn around and mock you, because science has proven itself to be a fail over the years as well. What we once thought was true is not any longer. Who knows what we're going to see is true based on the axioms that atheists hold as true in the future. So I think that theism is changing, and I think atheism is changing, and I think we're all on some kind of evolutionary path with each other. And I just think that the open door should allow everybody to throw in what they think and not criticize the other. That's the way I see it, writer. Whatever your name might be.
He has another response, but I feel before I read it, it seems like there's a false assumption that because a person should be trusted as inspired by God to prove that God exists.
If that is there in your world, I would run from that. That's a false assumption.
Well, that's just how it started. If we can't find a way to trust a person that's inspired, that to be inspired by God, shouldn't we X, Y, and Z? So it does seem like a impossible thing to set up, and that's what we're talking about in our criticism of faith, is people saying they should be trusted in what their faith is. They shouldn't. It is subjective and personal. Yeah,
including me. Nobody should trust me. You've got to do the work yourself.
Yeah. So he's saying it would be maybe nice if this guy called in because he has things to say. But when theists admit, this is the common comment. When theists admit they have faith, they're admitting they have no argument or evidence. Faith is the excuse you give when you have no evidence. Science improves on itself. Theism does not.
Okay.
Wait, so, more. There's more.
I know, but
okay.
These are heavy concepts.
Okay.
So let me just say this. You are not in the position to determine how evidences are interpreted. You are not God, or you're not the absence of God. You don't get to make that choice. All you can say is the evidences that I see suggest to me that there is no God. Okay, and someone who sees God in the evidences around them, like the cosmological order, or the galaxies, or the birth of a child, or the sun rising and setting, and the seas. They say those evidences speak to me. You cannot discount them, and them using those evidences as a proof for their metaphysical belief in an invisible God. It's just as reasonable as your stance that there is no God. It's just as reasonable. It's just a difference in how you're going to interpret those things.
Yeah. Do you think faith makes Allah real? What about Vishnu? If faith makes only one religion true, then it's special pleading. Clearly, you don't listen to any of our content.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. And so he's coming from one perspective, not having investigated what we're about, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Look at faith. What was the question you started with?
Do you think faith makes Allah real? What about Vishnu?
No, I don't think faith makes Allah real. I don't think science makes Allah real. I think science merely proposes a certain theory that they name. Let's just say they call it the bubble theory. And then they build on that. And when they see their building upon it works, like in medicine and in chemistry and everything, they call it truth, absolute. It's not absolute. It's just what we use to name these things in order to get by in this material world.
Okay.
So faith, has nothing to do with validating truth. We don't have all truth. We believe on evidences, and we choose to have an intellectual assent that those evidences support our belief in a maker, or a God, or a Jesus, or a Vishnu, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
I'm not sure how productive we're going to be here. He's kind of going off now.
Yeah, and that happens typically. Look, I can summarize our whole conversation right now. You see evidences that you interpret one way. I see evidences that I interpret as a basis for faith. You and I will never agree. I respect you. I love you as a brother and as a creation of, or sister, as a creation of God. But to even debate back and forth is useless.
Yeah.
Our scripture that we trust says the natural man cannot discern the things of God. So even starting from there, your discernment is lacking from the text we trust.
Yeah. He's not really listening. He's just kind of saying a lot. And
Okay.
it's worth also saying that I think you're pooling us with Christianity at large. And I think Christians would be offended by you pooling us with them. We're far from
Yeah.
what Christianity does to prove or not prove God.
Yeah.
We're really far from that. So, and he's saying he's not going to listen to content that's lying to him, quote unquote. So I don't really know what.
I'm not lying to you, brother. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to purposely mislead you, then I'm lying to you. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to do that.
Yeah. It would be really great if you called. I think there's a lot of people commenting back to him, and he's saying heaven is 100% imaginary. Jesus is 100% imaginary.
Okay, and that's as foolish
Yeah.
as for a Christian to say hell is 100% true.
Yeah. We don't say anything's that we can prove anything.
No.
And Christians saying that they know anything is wrong. That is our objective here.
Yeah.
But while that's the case, we can still believe there is objective truth in the world that's worth trying to find out.
Yeah.
In the same way scientists do, in the same way, like we're on the same page as people who don't believe in God in a lot of ways, in
Same
that
page.
everything we're doing is faith. Whether it's of God or a different kind of faith, it's all, no one knows, and we're trying our best. So
Excellent summary, Del.
great. If you can't prove anything, why are you talking about it? We just said it's worth the
It's called
attempt.
faith.
Yeah, it's worth trying in life. Otherwise, let's just all kill ourselves.
Good response. And he can call in next week.
Please do. Phoenix is asking, in the midst of all this, can Shawn give his definition of truth? When he says he's searching for truth, does he mean in regard to the Bible, Yahweh, or does he mean truth of the universe?
I'm searching to get as close to the truth with a capital T as possible, all things considered. But because I'm human, I can't consider everything. So in my process of trying to search for truth, I acquiesce to certain positions of faith. I don't call them proof. I just call them assessments and agreements on certain evidences. Truth with a capital T, I don't think is available to the human being in full. The only person who has a handle on the capital T truth is God. We are blind and we are ambling forth, made of flesh and with limited mind space to try to figure things out. That's all we're doing here. We're trying to figure things out in a reasonable, kind way.
There's an urgent need for you to define faith.
Oh, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Okay, and twice in that passage in Hebrews, the word things is used. So think of it this way. Faith is the substance, instead of things, of the promises of God. Faith is the substance of the promises of God hoped for, the evidence of the promises of God not seen. That's what faith is. Because not seen is there, we automatically move ourselves from scientific query, and we move ourselves into a arena that does not even come close to what science is about. But we understand that, we admit it, and we go forward.
I'm confused. You're quoting the Bible, but you're not a Christian. So faith equals lacking evidence, like I said, an arena free of facts or truth. That's not what was said at all just now. We are very Christian, Yeshuan.
I'm not going to debate with you, brother.
This is too
If you
much.
want to learn about what we believe and you can take our evidences, you're welcome. If you don't, like I said, we love you, bid you farewell. We know God loves you. And from the proofs that we accept or the evidences that we accept, and we wish you well. I mean, what do you want? What do you want us to say? By the way, I don't read these things. Delaney reads them. I don't see them. So I'm going off by what she's reading.
There's a lot, and
Don't go down the quagmire. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's pretty hurtful, actually.
Yeah, when you if you walk by your own flesh and your own wisdom, and you don't have a source that's bigger and more powerful than you to look to, you often become a prick.
We don't know anything, man. You're saying we say we know things. We're saying the opposite. I think you're saying you know things.
Yeah, I'm not saying we know anything, and I've said
odd.
that 3 times.
Yeah.
I said all we have are evidences that we acquiesce and say we believe them. We don't know anything.
Okay. Yeah, I can't.
Don't read them anymore.
Okay.
She's back there.
I'm having an aneurysm over here. Please call in. Use your voice. Be a person. Speak to our face. It's really easy to chat in the comments. It's so easy, while not really even listening. You're chatting while he's talking. Okay. I'm currently not reading the chat. I'm finding other comments. So if you're talking to us in it, I'm not looking at it. What is next? Interesting discussion on our a couple weeks ago on the call-in. Someone says, debate in the traditional sense. I'd love to hear a detailed explanation around hell, like fire and the hidden place as a cohesive single segment on a show.
We cover hell in a bunch of different places. Bottom line, it was the covered place for the nation of Israel and all their prophets and patriarchs. They all went there because man was separated from the presence of God because of the fall. And then that place was done away with by Christ's victory over Satan and his angels, as described in Revelation 20:21, I think. So we do not believe in a hell that is burning with fire forever, where people are torched in their resurrected flesh without reprieve. That is something of a product from Augustine, and we do not accept that as biblical whatsoever.
Okay, so I really don't want to treat people like they're 3 years old, but I feel like we might want to kick this guy out of the chat. It's like at that point now where... But we have a call. I'm going to put you on some sort of timeout, which is just, I hate that. But
my poor daughter, she's getting a baptism of fire here.
You sound like you're 18 months old.
Me?
No, he says that to me. Okay.
Why be dismissive?
So mean.
Why
Who
be
is
mean?
the mean one here?
Don't be a mean atheist.
Mean.
Don't be a mean know-it-all.
Jeff's calling, so I'm sending him over to you, Dad.
Jeffrey, how you doing?
Hey, Sean. Hey, I wasn't going to call in today, but then this guy started posting in the chat, and I felt like maybe you guys needed a kinder, not complete believer to call in and and say, I think you guys are okay.
Thanks.
I also wanted to say, science isn't limited to non-believers. That's ridiculous. Theists can use science. Atheists can use science. People
Amen.
who aren't sure can use science.
Amen.
And I think of all the people who teach from the Bible, you've demonstrated time and time again that when a fact of evidence is facing you, you take it seriously. You don't. Because you're honest. You try to do what's honest, and I think you believe that Satan is the father of lies or something to that effect, and so you wouldn't want to stand behind a lie.
Right.
I think you're genuinely trying to do what's true, and I think it's immature of an atheist to claim otherwise in the chat. So here I am saying I appreciate you.
Jeffrey, check is in the mail, my brother.
Thank you.
Well,
Delaney is...
I don't always...
You're Delaney's hero now.
Thank you.
To speak to the person in chat, if they're still listening, you can get a lot further with kindness. Even if I know you think your ideas are better than believers, but if you can exchange ideas and be kind, maybe someone will listen to you. And if you're right, maybe they'll adopt some of what you have to say. But you could also learn a thing or two.
Amen. Amen. Thanks so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it, my friend.
Absolutely. I had a little question. I woke up this morning, or did I even sleep? I don't know. I woke up this morning and saw the transition over to the new the community platform on the website from Discord, and you spoke about it earlier.
Yeah.
At first, I may have been a little grumpy about it, I'll admit, but it looks like a pretty good platform from what I can see so far. And I note that you use the term social media, and I think that's a term that hasn't been well defined. And what I think is interesting is, and I'm not trying to like defend Discord at the moment, but I'm genuinely curious about this. To me, because the Discord server was private, kind of closed and controlled, like you could control who was invited in, you could kick people out if need be. I realize it was hosted on a third-party platform, whereas the community website actually seems more open in some ways. Like a lot of the conversations and posts can be seen without logging in, although it does have private chat features. Both of those systems are what I would just consider chat systems. I know that they might push Discord as some sort of an alternative to social media, but to me, when I hear social media, I think of those as platforms that are all about me. It's where you have a profile, where you gather followers personally, where you're posting what you're doing that day on a feed that people can subscribe to that represents you as an individual. And I'm just curious how you parse this apart, because I totally see what you're saying, where a lot of negativity can come in those, what I would consider ego-based systems of social media. And by the way, I wanted to say, the Discord server, you guys control it. You can shut it down. It's not going to turn into a place that makes fun of you, unlike what happened with Facebook. Yeah. But I am just curious, what is the definition to you of what makes something social media? What is the negative ingredient that causes that to be bad versus something like the new platform that is being not considered social media? What makes the difference?
I am going to defer, Jeffrey, to my daughter for the simple reason I made those distinctions in what can only be considered pure ignorance. I really have tried to keep away from anything like it. So I'm going to ask Delaney to answer that question.
I mean, I don't. This is hard. To start, the transition was for like a massive host of reasons that are like logistical. Frankly, I would like to be involved in the conversation and I can't keep up with Discord. And maybe that's the thing, like the fact that it's chat oriented and there's, it like gets beyond me. And not that I need to control the conversation. I don't want that at all. I want people to be able to talk, but like as long as it's in the name of the Great News Network, I would like to be able to do like I don't know, like maintain the quality of the conversation, which obviously the quality on Discord is great right now, but I could see it going haywire the way that Facebook does, because there's this like the speed of it, I think, is difficult. So the way that this new community manages conversation is at a pace that I think that someone new who we're hoping to bring in many more people who have never met us can get into a conversation immediately and like participate rather than having to read a long string of text, or, you know, no one has the time. So in addition to that, that's the comment on the social media part, but and that's what I consider social media, I guess, is like it's because it's so chat oriented, it's social in nature. The point is to have a long conversation. It's called Discord. Like it facilitates a long conversation, where instead, I think the direction we're going is education, pointed, timely, coming with a prepared thought and answering with a prepared answer about specific content that the group is making. So I don't it might be totally preferential, and I think it is, in a way, you like Discord and you want to have the long conversations, which is why I'm debating maybe we keep Discord for the people that want to have those conversations. But in terms of being represented by the Great News Network and me telling people go here to get announcements or something, it needs to be something that emulates the type of discourse we're trying to have, which is focus. Really, it's just about the organization and our focus. It's not we don't like social media personally, but it's not about that. It's more that we're getting these articles published out in the world. It's okay, what do we want people to know us by when they first come to the website? And sorry, I'm bad with articulation, so that was long, but
did that help at all?
Did that
Jeff?
make sense?
No, this totally makes sense. And my question was more than just about the Discord. This goes all the way back to when Shawn used to have the disgrace book sign behind him.
It's deep,
and,
for sure.
Trying to understand that. And I think I might have something to add here. And I think the thing that is negative about a lot of these platforms is that somebody can do kind of what would be equivalent to a drive-by vandalism, where they're not part of the community. They aren't somebody known to people. They haven't participated in other ways, but they see it because their buddy posted it on the wall, on the feed or whatever, and then they throw some insult or comment or something negative at it, and they go their way, or maybe they stay and argue, but they have no investment in it. To me, I do like the long conversations, but I like the long conversations that have a depth and a focus to them that are centered in the Bible, that are centered in the faith, that are centered in understanding these things, not throwing insults and not just shooting the breeze about current events or something necessarily, unless it's relevant.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, the prospect of the drive-by vandalism is greater, but I do think it sort of bridges it. I think maybe Discord is overwhelming to someone who doesn't know us at all and isn't at that level, and the community is too superficial for someone trying to have the deep conversation. But there are some safeguards. Clearly, it was hard for you guys to even post at the start because you have to join the space in order to post. You have to have an account, all the things. It's not this atheist in the chat who can just get on our video. And so it's there's these levels of engagement. And again, it's always evolving. And so maybe we should keep
that
Discord.
Makes sense. I'm not saying community is, I wasn't saying community is too prone to vandalism. I was talking about things like Twitter and Facebook and even the YouTube chat, where somebody can casually just wander by because of other people posting or whatever they hit in their search. The intentional aspect of the community, I think, will help it a lot. I don't have any problem with that.
Thank you so much.
So, Jeff, I was just thinking that when you referred back to my disgrace book sign, I like identifiable contributors to things, because it brings more accountability and responsibility of the person for the things they say. And when there is an outlet where you can be anonymous, just like our caller or the guy who was posting all those comments, to know them is a step forward in open, responsible communication, and cowardice is found in anonymity. So community means you belong, and to belong to the Great News Network community means that we know you. We do care about you. We do talk about things of import rather than the drive-by vandalism. And I thought that was a great example that you used. So I hope all of this talk is helping us come to some understanding of how we should proceed.
Amen. I like what you said about the anonymity versus having an identity to what you say. I think that's very important.
Thanks, my friend.
All right. That's all I have for this week. Thank you guys so much for what you do.
Thank you for your kind heart and your patience and long suffering with us, Jeff. You teach me something almost every time I talk to you.
It means a lot. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
You want to wrap it up, Del?
Yeah. Our friend had to go back into this
No, don't even return
timeout. Again, for anyone listening, it removed his comments, which I wish it didn't, because I think they should be seen, but there's just a point where it's distracting. Okay, we should wrap it up.
So any announcements we want to make? You guys, are we going to be doing this on Thursday?
This?
Call in on Thursday from
Call-ins?
California?
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will be doing it even though it's during the holidays next week.
I forgot it was a holiday.
We're starting in Psalm not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. And that is just a fascinating, unbelievable book. And so if you are into verse by verse, or if you've never tried it with us, come test us out on Sundays go to the Great News Network and go to the verse by verse segment.
You'll see it. Yeah. Just go to the channel
and go there, and then look forward to our launch of Heart of the Matter monthly, Radicalized. We love you guys, and we are grateful for you and for your peace and patience amidst our differences as we're growing together and learning and bringing up great questions. All of you out there, thank you.
Thank you all. There's lots more announcements, but for another day. Have a good Christmas or whatever you do, and we love you. Bye.